Welcome to the Chamber of Stillness. You arrive just before dusk. A soft wind pushes through cypress trees, brushing their needles against one another with the hushed rhythm of an old lullaby. You're standing before a modest courtyard house in Luoyang, sometime during the Tang Dynasty. The air is thick with sandalwood and silence. A monk opens the gate. He bows not as greeting, but as invitation. "You look tired," he says kindly. "Good. Come in." You pass through layers of calm, stepping stones, moon gates, a koi pond that doesn't seem to ripple unless watched. This, you learn, is a sleep chamber. Not a bedroom, not a nap nook, a carefully curated sanctuary dedicated entirely to the nightly journey of the spirit. Here, sleep isn't an afterthought. It is a ritual, a philosophy, a gentle defiance of chaos. Your host offers a warm tea steeped with jujube, lotus seed, and a single dried chrysanthemum petal. The flavor is earthy, like memory steeped in rainwater. As the sun melts into ink, you're handed tonight's pillow. It is not soft. It is porcelain, etched with clouds and cranes. This is your first surprise. In Tang Dynasty China, pillows weren't always cushions. They were art, medicine, and moral compass all in one. Each design offered guidance, not comfort. Some scholars believed soft pillows spoiled the mind, encouraging dreams too sweet to be wise. Hard pillows, by contrast, anchored the spirit, keeping your qi from wandering too far while you slept. Tonight's crane design? For lightness of spirit and grace in transition, your host explains. You'll need that. Because in this chamber, sleep is treated as a kind of sacred travel. Every scent, texture, and sound has been arranged to shape the journey inward. And you? You probably won't make it through this night without drifting. So before we float into that world of sleeping sages and sculpted dreams, do take a moment to like, subscribe, and comment where you're listening from, especially if you're already curled into a nap-ready shape. Now, let's ease into tonight's journey, gently.
The scent of sleep and the whisper of silk. The first rule in this house is no loud thinking. You try to oblige. The chamber is dim now, lit only by the pale glow of an oil lamp shaped like a turtle. Its shell flickers shadows across the walls. Mountains, rivers, the odd, startled goat if you squint just right. You lie back against the porcelain pillow. Surprisingly, it fits. Cool at first, then warm where your neck settles into the curve, like it was made just for this version of your head. Soft music begins, played not with instruments, but with wind chimes made of stone. Their tones are low, rounded, and completely unhurried. A servant glides in on slippers so quiet they might be dreaming. She carries a tray with 2 items. A sprig of mugwort, freshly crushed. A folded silk square soaked in plum blossom water. These are aromatics for alignment. According to ancient Chinese sleep philosophy, the body's internal meridians must be soothed before rest can properly begin. Otherwise, dreams may run off the rails. Literally. There's a scroll on the wall depicting a man chasing his own soul on horseback after sleeping too soon after wine. The mugwort is waved gently under your nose. Bittersweet, like moss with opinions. Then the silk square is laid lightly across your forehead, not to block light, just to weigh down wandering thoughts. The scent drifts into you, along with the notion that you've never once considered your lungs as part of a bedtime story. But they are. Here, breath is story. Even your exhale is a lullaby to the organs. Breathe toward your kidneys, the host says quietly. They hold your fear. You try it. It's awkward, but oddly reassuring, like tucking in emotions you didn't realize were still up. Historians still debate whether these practices were purely spiritual, medicinal, or simply poetic tradition. Probably all three. But the oldest records speak with calm conviction. To sleep is to return to the self. To sleep poorly is to become stranger to the spirit. You think you understand. And then your eyelids flutter with the weight of silk, scent, and that strangely grounding porcelain curve. You do not fall asleep. You descend.
Dream scrolls, feather beds, and the philosophy of positioning. You awaken, not because you slept, but because the chamber changed. A new layer of silence has folded over the room. Deeper now, more complete. The kind of hush that makes you second-guess whether you're breathing too loudly. The silk cloth has been removed. So has time. A monk reappears, not the host, a different one, older, with a mustache shaped like a parenthesis, and eyes that look like they've watched centuries exhale. He carries a scroll, unrolls it beside your sleeping mat. It's painted with clouds and stars, drawn in looping brushstrokes. At first glance, it seems abstract, but then the patterns resolve into something more structured. This is a dream map, the monk murmurs. You look again. The swirls represent sleep positions. Left side, dreams of resolution. Right side, dreams of longing. Back, dreams of ancestors and old debts. Stomach, not ideal, associated with irrelevant thoughts and half-finished poems. You're not sure how to feel about that last one. Next comes the feather coverlet. Not just any feathers. These are from silken white ducks raised on lotus ponds. The bedding is as light as breath, and rumored to have once belonged to a noble family whose dreams were said to predict weather, weddings, and worm infestations with startling accuracy. No one talks much about the worm part. The feathers fall across you like a memory you almost forgot but never lost. And as you settle, the monk says one last thing. Dreams are not stories. They are visitors. Treat them politely. You blink slowly. The painted stars on the scroll seem to twinkle. You exhale, just once, and the room grows even quieter, as though waiting. The Pillow Oracle and the Porcelain of Prophecy. You are half asleep now. Not quite dreaming. Not fully awake. Somewhere in that delicious in-between, like tea just before it cools enough to sip. And that's exactly when you're introduced to the Pillow Oracle. No, not a person. An object. Porcelain, naturally. Oval-shaped with an opening at the bottom, painted in soft celadon glaze. At its center, a small hole that leads to a hollow chamber inside. It's placed beside your current pillow. Your host nods at it, as if it's just another polite guest. This one listens. You ask what it hears. The host shrugs, as if the answer changes nightly. According to the inscription carved around its base, this pillow belonged to a Tang-era philosopher who believed dreams were messages from the body's deeper intelligence, but they needed to be filtered, interpreted, stored properly. So he designed a vessel, a dream jar in disguise. The idea was this. As you slept, your breath would pass through the pillow's chamber. And with that breath, the faintest hints of your dreams, your fears, cravings, forgotten laughter, would be captured in the cool porcelain. Not to keep them, just to hold them long enough for you to understand. Some even believed that by listening through the vessel the next morning, one could hear echoes of the night's lessons. Others claimed that sleeping too long on such pillows would result in your dreams becoming jealous, which, frankly, says more about dream politics than anything scientific. Historians remain divided. Some say the oracle function was symbolic. Others think it simply allowed for better airflow on humid nights. But you? You place your hand on it, and it hums. Just faintly. A sound like the world exhaling in a whisper. You don't understand it, not exactly. But the stillness around you seems to approve. So you lie back. Breathe in. Let your thoughts spill into porcelain silence. And drift.
Moonlight on marble floors and the art of night walking. You wake again, though you never felt yourself sleep. This time, the air has shifted. It's cooler, crisper, laced with jasmine and the faint mineral scent of damp stone. A lantern glows in the distance, bobbing slightly. Someone is moving through the courtyard. But they're not rushing. They're gliding. You rise, slowly, like steam curling from tea, and step out onto the marble floor. It's smooth, pale, and cold enough to make your toes question your commitment to enlightenment. This is the Ye Xing, or night walk, a soft-paced ritual for cleansing the mind before second sleep. Yes, second sleep. In ancient China, it was not uncommon to divide sleep into two distinct segments. The first dream, followed by a quiet waking hour, then a return to slumber. During this middle pause, one might read poetry, sip a medicinal broth, or, if particularly devoted, engage in moon contemplation. Tonight, that's exactly what's happening. Your host gestures toward a stone bench beneath a flowering tree. A shallow bowl of warm broth is placed in your hands. It tastes faintly of date, ginger, and good decisions. Then the moonlight begins. You're handed a slip of silk. On it, written with a brush so delicate it might have been made from moth wings, is a poem. The moon sits in my bowl, soup of silver and thought. I stir, and memory floats. You're invited to write your own. This, you learn, was part of the sleep tradition for scholars and monks. Short poetry composed between sleeps, meant not to impress, but to unburden the mind. One Tang-era writer claimed that these verses acted like dream compost, returning stale thoughts to the soil of peace. It's unclear if that's metaphor or a very elaborate farming analogy. Either way, it works. Your own poem isn't perfect, something about clouds and dumplings, but when you read it aloud, even the cicadas seem pleased. You smile. Then return, barefoot and whole, to the chamber of stillness, ready for the second descent.
Silk Dreams and the Bureau of Sleep Registers. You return to your sleeping mat, and this time it welcomes you like an old friend. The porcelain pillow feels less foreign now, like it remembers the shape of your thoughts. The coverlet is still warm, or perhaps you are. But just before your eyes close, your host reappears with something new, a bamboo tablet and a brush. "For the register," he says simply. You blink. Apparently, in certain provinces during the Song and Tang dynasties, there existed the practice of recording notable dreams in personal sleep registers, a kind of diary that wasn't for your waking life, but for your unconscious one. Some aristocrats even submitted these entries to temples, where monks and diviners would file the dreams in great archives. According to legend, one temple claimed to have over 300,000 dreams cataloged on bamboo strips, each tagged with the dreamer's name, sleep posture, and moon phase. Tonight, you are invited to begin your own. "You need not wait for a dream to arrive," your host smiles. "You may invent one in advance." You consider that. It's strange comfort to imagine a dream before it happens. So you write, "Tonight I will dream of a river that sings, where boats are made of almond shells, and the sky is always thinking." You sign it with your first name and a drawing of a confused goose. The host nods in approval. Very traditional. He rolls the bamboo slip, ties it with a red string, and places it in a lacquered chest alongside hundreds of others, anonymous records of slumber's secret theater. No one will read them. That's not the point. They are testaments to rest, to imagination, and to the idea that sleep is not absence, but ceremony. As the oil lamp flickers low, you turn once, then twice, and finally drift. Not to nothingness, but to a river. One that sings. The jade sleep bell and the ritual of gentle waking. You are not woken by sound, you are invited. There's a hum, soft and round, like a voice singing in a bowl, a tone so gentle it doesn't disturb, it suggests. You stir slowly, surfacing from dreams of almond shell boats and goose-shaped constellations. The sound comes again. It's the jade sleep bell. Hung from a thin thread of silk near your sleeping mat, the bell is no larger than a plum. It doesn't clang or ring, it sings, resonating with a single, elegant note tuned to what the ancients believed was the body's dawn frequency. The monks who used it claimed it woke the Shen, the spirit mind, before the body, allowing it time to stretch and fold itself gently back into the spine. Modern scholars disagree on the concept of dawn frequency. Some say it's myth. Others claim there are faint sonic frequencies emitted by jade when exposed to early light. One very tired researcher simply wrote, "The bell is extremely pretty, and I fell asleep in the lab." Back in your chamber, a figure enters with a tray of warm towels and a small clay cup of pine nut congee. Waking nourishment. Nothing heavy, just comfort. This part of the ritual is called Huan Mian, welcoming return. In certain households, this was a deeply ceremonial moment. Children were taught to rise slowly, sit upright, and thank the bed for its service. The pillow was tapped once, lightly, as a gesture of respect. You do the same. Your porcelain pillow has earned it. There is no rush to stand, no clamor, just stillness unwrapping itself in the shape of morning. Even outside, the sparrows seem reluctant to interrupt. You feel complete. And that's the goal here, not sleep as escape, but sleep as completion. The Dream Incense Ledger,
and the scent of forgotten thoughts. Later that morning, if we can call it morning when time moves like honey, you're invited into another chamber. This one is smaller, round, and scented with everything. Floral, yes, but also hints of tea, cedar, citrus peel, and something that might be dried plum skins or the memory of someone you used to like. It's the incense study, and in it sits a tall, lacquered cabinet with tiny drawers, each labeled in calligraphy so delicate it looks whispered rather than written. This, your host explains, is a dream incense ledger, part apothecary, part archive. During the late Tang period, certain houses kept detailed logs of sleep incense blends used on specific nights, categorized by intended dream tone, emotional state, and lunar phase. Here are some actual entries. Blend number 45, for peace before journeys, includes pine ash, dried rose, and fig root. Blend number 12 encourages resolution dreams, though may result in dream noodles. Blend number 83, banned after uncle dreamt of becoming a bench for 3 consecutive nights. You are invited to select your next blend. The monk opens a drawer. Inside, a pinch of crushed sandalwood, a curl of orange rind, and a single dried violet petal, crumbling slightly from age. This blend, they say, is called memory without melancholy. They light it. A thin twist of smoke rises and wraps around your wrists like a silk ribbon deciding what mood to choose for you. And suddenly, it's as if the scent remembers you. Not all of you, just your happiest forgettings. A friend's laughter, a page you turned twice, the smell of a hallway you once walked as a child on your way to nowhere in particular. You do not speak, because to speak here would scatter it. You simply sit. Let it carry you. No need for questions. The incense has already answered.
Clay headrests and the geometry of dreams. This afternoon, the sun is just a suggestion, diffused through rice paper windows and layers of gauze. The world is pale gold. Your thoughts are slower than they were this morning, as though your spirit has adopted the pace of steam rising from a teacup. You are taken to another part of the house. This room contains no mats, no beds, just a long row of low pedestals, each bearing a different kind of pillow, though by now you know better than to call them that. These are headrests, objects designed not for comfort, but for intention. The host gestures toward a reddish-brown one shaped like a bridge, its form gently curved, its sides engraved with hexagonal patterns. It's made from fired clay, surprisingly cool to the touch. This is a Han Dynasty dream aligner, meant to support the neck at a precise angle believed to encourage harmonious neural blooming. The phrase appears in a dusty medical scroll nearby, accompanied by illustrations of what appear to be neurons? Pine trees? Possibly upside-down jellyfish. Scholars are still debating. You lie back on it. The clay does not yield. And yet, your breath slows. The slight lift to your head reorients your vision. You are no longer staring forward into the day, but gazing slightly upward, as if waiting for a message from the ceiling itself. Ancient sleep theorists, yes, that was a thing, believed that head elevation changed not just posture, but dream geometry. The angle of the spine determined whether dreams arrived as spirals, straight paths, or branching trees. This one encourages dream spirals, says your guide, tracing a finger in slow loops over the engraved pattern. Spirals were favored by calligraphers and composers, those who wished to circle toward meaning rather than collide with it. You close your eyes and try to imagine what a spiral dream would feel like. Not a maze, not a trap, just a return, ever gentler. You sleep like a thought curling in on itself.
Sleep paintings and the studio of stillness. When you wake again, it is with the strange certainty that someone has been painting near you. And you are correct. You are now in a wide studio room, its walls lined with scrolls and hanging silks, each one painted not with landscapes or courtly dramas, but with people sleeping. Yes, this is a Mian 2 studio, literally a sleep painting room. Your host explains, as if it's perfectly ordinary, that during the late Tang and into the early Song dynasty, certain artist-scholars became fascinated with the idea of capturing not what people saw in dreams, but how they looked while dreaming. These weren't portraits in the traditional sense. They were meditations. To paint someone asleep was to honor the quietest, most unknowable part of them. Each brushstroke recorded not posture or expression, but intention, whether the sleeper curled from sorrow or hope, fear or fullness. One scroll near you depicts a grandmother curled beside a basket of dried tangerines. Another shows a scholar with an ink brush still in his hand, chin dropped to chest, dreaming mid-sentence. You ask, quietly because this room doesn't allow for normal volume, how they painted without disturbing the sleeper. Your guide taps their head and smiles. Observation is also a form of meditation. Some paintings, you're told, were used for dream recall. If a subject viewed their own sleep painting upon waking, it was believed they might recover forgotten dream fragments, especially if the pillow in the painting matched the one they used. Which explains the scroll you're handed now. It shows you. Yes, you. Curled under the feather coverlet, hand resting lightly on the porcelain pillow, brow relaxed, lips slightly parted, painted not with precision, but with affection. You are peaceful and oddly luminous. You stare at the image and feel the dream you forgot begin to whisper back.
Pillow gardens and the cultivation of restfulness. This next place isn't a room. It's a garden, but not the kind for walking. This is a Zhenmian Yuan, a pillow garden designed entirely for reclining, napping, and the aesthetic cultivation of drowsiness. You're led down a shaded path, flanked by stones warmed by the sun and moss so thick it looks like it dreams too. Small wooden signs in careful calligraphy point toward zones labeled gentle surrender, fog thoughts, and simply still. You lie down beneath a flowering crabapple tree. The breeze smells faintly of fallen blossoms and wet clay. You are given a soft mat and, of course, a new pillow. This one is woven of cooled reed straw, hollow inside, with tiny scrolls tucked into its belly. You don't ask, you already know. It's not just for your neck, but your mind's library. In these gardens, every pillow has its own story. One belonged to a retired physician who claimed to have invented an herbal dream filter, though he often awoke with notes in his margins that simply read, "Cloud again," or "Fish, wrong size." Another was said to contain a single phoenix feather, It made no difference to posture, but supposedly caused dreams with unusually crisp dialogue. And this one, yours, is silent. No tales, no claims, just humble. It encourages non-dreaming, a rest so deep that even the subconscious falls asleep. You don't fight it. You lie back. A cricket sings just once, and then you stop trying to notice anything. Because this is not a place for thoughts to sharpen. It's where they are composted, softened, gently folded into mulch for something kinder to grow later. Even the wind here forgets where it's going.
The tea house of pre-dream conversations. You wake, not from a nap exactly, but from something deeper. You feel as though you were borrowed by the earth for a while and gently returned, slightly more rounded at the edges. The garden has changed color with the afternoon light. Your guide appears again, this time without words, only a gesture toward a modest wooden building tucked behind bamboo and hanging wisteria. This is the pre-dream tea house. Here, visitors speak not about the day behind them, but the dreams ahead. You remove your shoes, enter. The air is warm, steeped in the scent of roasted barley and plum kernel. Bowls of tea are already waiting on low tables, each one different. Yours is painted with a single cloud and a sleeping tiger. You are invited to speak your dream aloud, before it exists. A tradition once practiced among monastics and scholars who believed that declaring a dream aloud gave it a shape, made it less likely to slip into chaos. Others believed it was just good manners to warn the subconscious. So, you try. Tonight, I will dream of a staircase carved from bread that leads nowhere, slowly. The room nods, solemn as ever. Someone else offers theirs. I will dream of 6 cats wearing one large robe, teaching me arithmetic. The tea house takes these declarations seriously. No one laughs, because dreaming here is a kind of artistry, and every dream declared is like tossing a thread into the great loom of sleep. It may not catch, but then again, it might. The tea is warm, almost too warm, perfect for drawing your attention inward. There are no clocks, no expectations. And as you sip, you realize this is the opposite of coffeehouse energy. This is where noise goes to retire. Even your heartbeat seems to slow out of respect. You do not plan to dream. You prepare.
Linen shadows and the chamber of moon-reflected sleep. You return indoors, but it does not feel like going inside. The chamber of moon-reflected sleep is more light than room. Its walls are linen panels, paper-thin and swaying just slightly, like they're listening. The moon has not yet risen, but the room already carries its echo, pale, diffuse, wrapped in silver hush. You step in, barefoot. There is no bed, only a low silk-covered platform and a suspended silk canopy above, dyed with watercolor circles in varying shades of pearl and gray. When the wind lifts the canopy, it floats gently, like clouds thinking about whether they should become rain. You lie down. The floor creaks once, politely. This room was once used, you're told, by a poet-priest who believed true sleep occurred only when the body felt partially translucent. He constructed this space with the goal of melting the boundary between presence and absence. His writings are nearby. You're handed one on a parchment the size of your palm. It reads, "When the moon finds your bones and the air turns to silk, lie still. And do not invite yourself anywhere." The ceiling reflects your own silhouette back to you, slightly blurred,
filtered through the translucent silk canopy. Your own shape looks peaceful, almost like someone else is sleeping for you tonight. No incense here, no pillows, no scrolls, just space. And space is a shape too in the language of sleep. Even the floor's coolness seems to offer calm. A breeze slips through one of the panels and brushes your cheek like a dream, testing your temperature. Historians have yet to agree whether this chamber was based on Taoist sleep rituals or simply artistic eccentricity. But the line, as always, is blurred. Sleep itself is a kind of artistry. And here, you are the canvas.
The gentle gong and the philosophy of not waking. You do not wake. You are invited forward by the sound of a single soft gong. It hums through the silk chamber like a ripple through still tea. Not sharp, not commanding, just suggestive. It's known as the gong of not waking. A paradox? Perhaps, but ancient Chinese sleep scholars, yes, those existed, believed that the transition between sleep and waking should be as graceful as the falling of plum blossoms, gradual, unscheduled, and optional. In this tradition, the gong is wrong not to wake you, but to offer the idea of waking. You may accept or decline. You choose to linger. This is welcomed. There is even a term for it, shu zao, permitted dawn. In certain noble households, this early liminal hour was considered too delicate for full awareness. Servants moved in whispers. Tea was brewed not for drinking, but for scent. Children were taught that voices belonged only to birds until the second sunbeam. You were handed a warm cloth for your face, scented with lotus and something elusive, like the breath of old paper. A companion places a small book beside you. Its title translates to The Practice of Quiet Return. You open to a random page. Let the body be slower than the mind. Let the breath return before the voice. Let the eyes remain closed until memory arrives. You follow the advice exactly. Lying there, half wrapped in silk and silver air, you wonder whether the ancient sleep masters viewed consciousness not as a light switch, but as a moonrise, subtle, gradual, and never rushed. Even now, you were not fully awake. You were simply a bit more vertical than before, and that here is enough. Final thoughts beneath the whispering quilt. This is your last chamber. You're not told as much, but you know. The way one knows a teacup is nearly empty, or a melody has only a few notes left. This room is barely a room at all. Just a single mat, a sliver of moonlight, and the whispering quilt. A hand-stitched blanket said to carry the dreams of those who've used it before. It's not magical, just worn, loved, used by generations of thinkers, artists, grandmothers, monks, people who once worried and then didn't. The quilt is soft, but not overly so, weighted, not heavily, but enough to remind you you are here, you are held, and everything else can wait. You lie down, not because you're told to, but because your body has decided it deserves it. Your host does not speak now. They only place a warm cup near your hands, sweet rice water, touched with cinnamon bark. You sip, breathe, and let the quiet arrive like tide. This final chamber is called the Place of Nothing More, a simple name, because there is nothing more to prepare, to measure, to earn. You have walked through incense in pillows, silence and steam. You've written dreams before they happened and forgotten them after. You've slept in ways most people never think to. Slowly, ceremonially, like it matters. And maybe it does. Because in this house, sleep is not an absence. It's a return, a daily pilgrimage, a quiet vow to begin again. And now, dear dreamer, we end this journey as we began, with breath, with softness, with the quiet knowledge that not all stories need a sharp conclusion. Some just fade, like brush strokes in fog or stars before morning.
You lie very still now. The quilt rises gently with your breath, like a small boat on a calm sea. Outside, the wind has quieted. The wisteria no longer rustles. The bells have long since stilled. And somewhere in the far corners of this old sleeping house, a candle flickers its last, and even the shadows curl up to rest. There's no need to open your eyes. The story is over, but your sleep is just beginning. Let your thoughts dissolve into the folds of the pillow beneath you. Let them drift out past the reed mat, past the painted doors, past the garden of dreaming moss. Inhale once, softly. Hold nothing. Exhale longer than before. And again. Nothing presses you now. No voices, no tasks, not even your own questions. Let your chest rise and fall like silk laid gently over a breeze. You are safe. You are still. You are invited to sleep, not like falling, but like floating home. And should a dream come tonight, curled, spiral-shaped, carrying the scent of plum tea or faint laughter from a long-forgotten hallway, know this, it has been waiting for you too. Good night, and rest deeply.